Good evening. I'm Father Russ Carmichael, and thank you for letting me back into your home. I got a great show tonight. Across from me, of course, is my co-host who did the show last week. I'm sure you all saw that, Dominic. But my great guest tonight and my favorite candidate for mayor, Michael Passero. How are you? Right? Oh, okay, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so, I'm so happy about this. I've been waiting for this for a couple of years now, okay, for your run for mayor, and I'm really happy about that. And I don't know how happy your wife is about that because of all the time it takes. It's a different type of thing. So how are you finding this?
It's been the support's been overwhelming, and Mary's fine with it. She's actually better with it than I am. So, but it's been great. I think we have a really strong team that's shaping up. We're working hard, and we're going to go at it big time.
I know quite a few of my people have jumped right on board, are so happy for you. I know, they worked hard with the governor's race with, Dominic and stuff like that. We really worked really hard across the state on that race, and even here locally. But my local people here they are just elated that you've chosen to run, and they're real happy.
That's great. I appreciate the support, and I appreciated the support a year ago in the council run. You did a lot of work for me, and it showed at the polls.
You got one serious, diverse coalition of people who really like you. Because I know most of us can't even get in the same room with each other. Probably drive-by shootings and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you from a coalition standpoint. Now, I do say that jokingly, but as someone who's organized over the years, a lot of years, and I think you know that I've been a lot of years in the political arena, dirty Boston Democrat and all that stuff. It really takes a unique individual to bring together the diversity of the people that were even in the room when you announced. I mean, it was amazing that no brawl broke out in that place.
There wasn't enough room.
It's true. There wasn't enough room.
Well, politics is, it can be a game of elbows, and, sometimes you consciously or not, you end up giving an elbow and you take an elbow, and sometimes there are long-standing grudges that develop. And one thing that I'm noticing is that people are willing to put down those past grievances against each other to pull together and form a coalition for this campaign, and
that's a real good, important thing, and that's a way to move on. I do have one caller I have to get to. We love this man. Are you there, Ray?
Hey, Father Russ.
How you doing, Ray? We love you.
How are you, Ray?
Hey, who's the other guest?
You can't you see?
How you doing, buddy?
That's Michael Passero. Look at that sign. Can you
Hi,
see?
Michael.
Hello, hey Raymond, I shouted out to you today on Man Wearing Hell. You couldn't hear me. Do you remember that? Then there was another gentleman that was trying to get your attention. I was driving by.
Yep.
And Dominic's here, Ray.
I didn't see you.
How you doing there, Ray?
Why I call, I would like to wish you and Bob a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Bobby always talks about you. Hopes you're doing well and everything else. We love you, Ray. You know that, right?
Hey, Father Russ.
Yeah.
You got a nice man there.
Yeah. You turn your TV down. Ray, I'll see you later, right?
All right, you take care of my friend Michael.
I will. Love you, guy. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Good night, Ray.
Good night, Ray. Ray is loyal. 12 years, I think. I don't know how long. 12, 13 years.
He finds you no matter where you are.
He finds you nowhere. You can't run and you can't hide from Ray.
Yeah. Well, I've known him for 31 years through the fire department.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody knows Ray.
Everybody knows Ray. He's really a wonderful person to us and has been loyal to us for years and years. I guess I do want to ask about serious stuff, like what happened with the school situation? Where are we with the funding? Are we gonna, is that issue going on? It's been in the day, and it's totally unclear now. And I know that the night that they were passing it, that thing, you was already stating that there was gonna be a conundrum about that whole situation.
Well, actually, it's good that you asked me that question today, because I'm fresh out of a 2-hour school building and maintenance committee meeting this morning, probably the longest one since I've been serving on that committee for 3 years. Now, and we've been developing towards the reconstruction of the high school and the Benny Dover Middle School for a number of years. It's been through different iterations, but the final package, this $168 million bond ordinance that passed in June, on June 27th, it's the problem with meeting the deadline at the end of June. There was, if you'll recall, there was a special council meeting on June 27th, and the purpose of that meeting was to vote on that bond appropriation before the June 30th state deadline for getting in the queue to be a priority project, so we could get the funding, the state authorization this year. And the problem with meeting that deadline was if there was a petition certified challenging the appropriation ordinance, then the ordinance is off the books until the referendum was held. A petition was filed, and the referendum wasn't held until November 4th. So that made the effective date of the city's appropriation of the money November 4th, which is well past the June 30th deadline. That was the problem. I had hoped to be underway with the high school project. We would have been 4 or 5 months underway at this point. If we had appropriated the high school portion of it separately, and if that was also not petitioned. But there's a lot of ifs there, and there's no, there would be no guarantees. I had a sense that in the community that the high school portion of it would not be petitioned, because I think everybody understands that the need to get going on that project. It didn't happen that way. The lucky part is we do have the money in place to rebuild these 2 facilities, and we're well underway doing it. So I don't think people should misunderstand the stories they're reading in the news as, essentially bad news. We've appointed, and prior to really even knowing how the referendum came out, we appointed the selection committee to select the architect for the project. That process is underway. They're developing the RFP. We have a $3 million grant from the state to do the design phase of the high school. That's separate from the bond ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, and that that process, the design process for the high school, is going to take a certain amount of time anyway, many months.
Right.
We're going to move ahead with the selection of a construction general contractor. Mm-hmm. And, essentially, the project will be moving forward. The hope is, and there's a meeting in early December with the Commissioner of DAS. So with our legislative delegation, we're going to make a strong push to get on that, to get special legislation, to get put on that priority list for this year. Mm-hmm. But either way, we're going to keep moving forward, and this project's going to go forward. So, there's good news. Not everything goes perfect in life.
No, nothing goes perfect, and as long as we can straighten it out. But sometimes you read the paper, and sometimes either they don't get it right, and you get almost like a panicky thing going on.
There is some real urgency because of the condition of the facilities, the high school especially, the situation with the boilers. And the situation really at Benny Dover is not much better. We did invest a lot of money in the boilers there last year, if you recall. We went through a thing where we actually have one of the 3 boilers at the high school that's been out of service now for 3 years. So there was some urgency to really get going on this high school piece. But really and truly, if you think about it, no matter if there's a short delay, the project is still going to take 3 or 4 years.
Right.
We still have to address, and this was a discussion at the School Building and Maintenance Committee today, we still have to address the issues we have at the high school to keep that building going for potentially 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, but that doesn't affect, none of that affects accreditation in the high school. That's not a curriculum problem. That's a
Well,
maintenance problem.
Actually,
Am I right?
I'm not an expert on that, but I
Okay.
believe it's the facility, the deterioration of the facility that's affecting the accreditation at this point, not the curriculum.
Not the curriculum.
There are,
I mean, because that was my question come up, and I looked at that, and of course, obviously, I don't know how it works here and everything. I was saying, okay, if you've got a maintenance problem and a safety problem and a lot of things like that could affect your building maintenance, but why would it affect any kind of accreditation? Because usually you think of accreditation as curriculum accreditation and stuff like that for your children. Okay, obviously you don't want them learning in a facility that's falling apart and things falling on their head, but you know, that was one of the things I was really concerned about.
well, the school has been on what's called warning status with NEAS, which is the accrediting agency in the state.
Right,
And that's been for a number of years.
right.
Those issues stem from the facilities, not the curriculum.
Okay, okay.
And we've been, I mean, now, so this is my 5th year on the council. Actually, my first term on the council, we were considering plans and funding alternatives for building a new high school. I remember having a debate
Yeah,
over whether to
yeah.
renovate as new. You right, remember?
Yeah,
We
I do
actually,
remember, yeah, yeah.
Thinking of the architects, the name of the architect company, but they actually brought in the renderings. We were considering A, B, or C as far as cost ranges, whether we're going to renovate as new, whether we're going to demolish, rebuild the whole thing. So we were off and running at that point. The whole process was interrupted when the state receiver was put in charge
Right.
of the school district.
That's right, that's right,
And at that point, the special master was appointed.
right.
And I do recall in my first meeting with Dr. Adamowski, he pointed out to me that he had looked at the situation in New London, and he had determined that the number of school facilities we were trying to maintain, the buildings, on the tax base that we had, he didn't see how the numbers would ever add up. He thought we were trying to accomplish the impossible. So for everybody that thought that New London was, you know, just failing and incompetent, it really is that we're trying to do more than we really can with the resources we have. So, you know, it was a Herculean effort, but we were setting ourselves up to fail. And Dr. Adamowski, you know, really, I think, was the impetus to develop this new method of funding our school system, which is the magnet pathways. And that has been, I believe that it's been a success because it's been a matter of building consensus and getting people wrapping their arms around this project. And I have heard very, very little. There is, you know, there obviously is some resistance to it and some skepticism.
Always.
But on the whole, it seems, and I don't hold myself out as the educational expert. I mean, I'll defer to the people who I, you know, respect and have trust in that are making these decisions. And that's the way we're going at this point.
Yeah.
And I think it bodes well for the city and the success of the city to have a great school system. And this is the way that we're going to make it.
If you're going to attract people, you have to have it. It's key.
Yeah.
It's key. School system is key to any city. If you're gonna develop and you're gonna go forward and everything else without a good school system, you're a failing situation to begin with. It's one of the the most important keys. Okay, because nobody young with family and stuff like that is going to move into areas where you have schooling failing system. It's just not going to happen.
So we don't want to get distracted with issues
It's
like when is the state going
Right.
to actually approve the projects.
Okay.
We have to focus on what we have to do because the execution of this is going to be local.
Right.
We have to execute these construction projects and we have to do it well and we have to do it right. So if you look at the way we moved from Jennings School, which was not a well-run construction project, we're still dealing with the problems that resulted in that and trying to recover the money that's owed to us from the state. But we've moved from there. We've corrected our game. Winthrop and Nathan Hale are built. They're open. They're beautiful facilities, and we're closing out the projects now, getting all the paperwork right, getting all the state money that's due us on those projects. We're doing that right, and we're setting ourselves up to begin an even more ambitious project.
Very good,
Which is
yeah.
going to be phased. We're going to do the high school first, and then we're going to do the middle school. There may be some overlap. And all of that isn't really determined yet, but it's going to be in the execution here that makes this project successful.
Makes it,
I was going to say, what is it? It's like 50 to like 55 or 58% that you get back from the state for these projects?
The project that we're beginning now, the
Yeah.
high school and the middle school, is 80% reimbursed. The Nathan Hale Winthrop project, on the other hand, was 95% reimbursed.
Wow.
yeah, it's nice.
That's some
Yeah,
bigger dollars.
Huge cost savings and
Yeah.
everything else like that. Well worth the effort, and well worth the effort if you're going forward and you're looking for a future and developing a city and stuff like that. You can't beat the cost factor like that, in my opinion.
But
Of
you know
course.
what I've learned serving on the school building maintenance committee, the game becomes getting that reimbursement.
Right.
You're dealing
Yeah.
with an enormous bureaucracy, and you have to prove out every receipt. Because the game becomes eligible, ineligible,
Yeah.
eligible, ineligible, and you can if you mess it up, the costs become ineligible, and the state says, well, we're not going to give you your 80%.
Well, there's my argument about serious leadership, okay? I mean, I don't want to poo-poo anything, but the fact of the matter is, you need competent people doing this stuff and overseeing what you're doing. And if you don't, you're going to make major mistakes, and it's costly to your community. I mean, yes, I do want to say, we have an administration situation that right now are incompetent in the running of this city. I mean, we have a death in a department that people are going to sue about, and we had somebody running that department that wasn't qualified for running the department, and they're still there. So I mean, we got leadership problem in the community. Of course, that's why I'm going to vote for you. My partial, I'm sorry, but that's I mean, people think I'm negative about certain people, but when you do not get somebody who can't read to run a library. I'm sorry, you just don't. You don't get somebody who doesn't know how to do roads and construction to run a road crew. I mean, in the military, you don't get, you just don't do things like that because you can't fight without bullets. You know what I mean? And you can't. We have a community that doesn't seem to understand. You cannot put people in our type of city, which you need real control and you need quality people in there to run it because we don't have a lot. We got tight budgets and stuff like that. So the best qualified people you can get in there is exactly what you want. You don't want somebody in there who's going to go willy-nilly and just throw people into the department because they're their friends. I mean, no offense, but Michael, what can I say?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that my sense is that there's really a lot of talent in this city that's willing to jump in and help out. And because of a sense of what I said in my announcement speech, just a sense that this is not the best of times, this is the worst of times. They're on the sidelines for one reason or another. Mm-hmm. The trick there is that they're on the sidelines. They haven't left the game. They're willing
and ready to work and to bury old hatchets, as you were just saying a little while ago. I mean, I know. I mean, some people are talking to me nice. And that's a big deal, isn't it, Dominic?
Yes.
I mean, and that's a great thing when you can bring a bunch of people together that really are looking forward to what's happening in our city and want to develop in all different parts of the community. I mean, you're talking about across the board in the community and we do have serious qualified people on the sidelines, but that's where they are. Yeah.
So the thing is to get everybody back in the game and pulling together. Because everybody has the same goal. That's you know, first you have to stop down and say, we all have the same goal, and if you unite behind that goal, you forget about your differences, and you work together and get everybody's best assets pulling towards the goal. So, and then you end up celebrating together when you get there.
There you go.
Well, I think people want to see legitimacy in the direction that's giving. They want people that are, you know, that are true to their word and are not going to, you know, change the game halfway in between, kind of like our current mayor that's basically said that he wasn't running, then all of a sudden he's back in, and he can't seem to make up his mind about too much of anything. And I think, you know, it seems to me it's a very divisive situation right at the moment. And I think the more that you can have somebody that has credibility to be able to pull that in, and certainly I was talking to one of the other councilmen, Marty, last week, and seems like he's all raring to go for you to jump in. I mean, you might have some differences in opinion, but you know, that feeling of credibility and legitimacy in the way that you come across, and is the key to really kind of pulling people together. And I always say you have to get behind the mission, but you have to be able to deliver the message about what the mission is, and to be able to hold true to it too.
Yeah, and you need the people, and you need to put in the people who are qualified to do
Yeah.
the job, not just because they're your friends. No offense, you know what I mean? You're not going to make me your head department because you know Russ Carmichael, Father Carmichael, who doesn't, you know.
He's not going to be the next head of Parks and Rec over here.
You know, you got to be kidding me. The other thing, you know, people say I'm easy on Michael because, you know, we like the way you operate, and I get challenged on that. But I do ask you the hard questions, like school. The other thing my concern is this week is, what are we talking about this money with the police department? That was scheduled for one thing, and
Oh.
No.
I'll tell you, I heard a story on that.
Okay.
I heard a story on 94 News 9.
All right.
You know,
Totally off, right?
completely.
Okay.
No offense to 94 News 9, but
Okay,
I mean,
good.
somebody didn't understand exactly what's going on. The administration negotiates contracts.
Right, exactly.
The only role that the council has in that is to approve it or disapprove it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're negotiating a contract and you know eventually you've got to sell it to this seven-member body, I mean, I think the negotiating strategy for the city side should be to know what you've got to do to sell it to the council.
Right.
Well, there wasn't a problem there. The contract was approved, seven zip.
Okay.
It was unanimous.
Unanimous
It was
approval.
Unanimous approval. Unfortunately, the contract increased the costs of running the department by $425,000 in this fiscal year, and there wasn't enough foresight to budget for that money. So we have a $425,000 hole in the budget the minute we approve the contract. We could, the whole discussion is, a whole discussion on approving the contract and not approving the contract, leaving that aside, okay? Let's just say the contract's the best thing for the city, the best thing for the department, it's a good contract, okay? But we've got a $425,000 hole. We knew that. The seven of us knew that. And actually, the administration, at the time we approved the contract, wanted us to transfer money from the contingency fund at that same time. They wanted the two votes together. They said, look, you approved the contract, but you also got to give me the money to pay for it. Yeah, that's true. If we approve the contract, we have to pay for it.
Right.
But I was not convinced that the place they were having us take the money from to pay for it was necessarily the place
the right
we needed
place?
to take the money.
Okay.
So we have to find $425,000 in this budget. Just, look at what we're looking at in the governor's situation.
Exactly.
He's looking at $1 million hole,
Right.
okay? So he's used his executive authority to cut his budget.
Right.
And I just got a list of the rescissions he's made, okay? So
Okay.
Central State University is losing $1.2 million, okay? This, I think Three Rivers is losing $300,000. I was just looking at the list, and that must be the education thing. But every department, it goes down, and he's ordered cuts.
Yeah.
So those departments aren't going to get the money that they expected to work with this year. What we're asked to do is we're asked to take the money from the contingency account, which is new this year. I had attempted to get a contingency account in the budget a couple of other years, and it always ended up getting cut in the end, because that was the first place to cut before we even passed the budget.
Right.
But this year, somehow, the budget survives with a contingency account, and in the contingency account, we put all the new positions that the administration said they wanted. Not all of them, we didn't give all the new positions, but we took the positions, well, we wanted to start to fulfill our obligation to increase the size of the police department back up to 80 sworn officers.
Right.
I think we're at 65.
65,
The best we
I
could
believe,
do, the best we could do was put enough money in the contingency account for 3 new police officers, or 3 additional police officers. Public Works wanted a plumber. So when we passed the budget, there's no plumber. We don't know when you're going to hire a plumber. So we're not going to give you the money for a plumber and benefits and all that from July 1. Because you're not going to have a plumber there July 1. So we don't even know what you're going to end up, if you don't end up hiring the plumber till January,
You got a half
you've
a
got
year's-
that money in
Yeah,
your
right,
budget,
right,
and it's tied up, and so we put all those new positions in and then there was a number of other ones in the contingency account, 3 cops, a plumber, a grant writer. These were all goals that the council shared with the administration, but we didn't actually know whether we were going to end up having to pay 100% of those salaries for all those people. Now, for instance, we haven't got the hiring process to hire 3 additional police officers. You'll read about police hiring. We do have, thank God, I think 3 officers, new officers going through the academy now. But that's just going to fill vacancies left by attrition. That's not going to do anything to increase
Not
our
the
patrol
increase,
strength.
Okay.
All right?
Right.
And I haven't heard anything from the administration about hiring police. Now, we're getting to be almost halfway through the fiscal year, so we're definitely not going to need the full cost of 3. So now, theoretically, if we start the hiring process, we could do 6,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Okay,
As long as we commit to fund them in the next budget,
Right, right.
okay?
Right.
Because if you hire somebody, you really have an obligation now. That
Right.
position's going to be carried on.
Okay.
If we transfer the $425,000 to fill this hole created by the new PD contract, we're essentially wipe out that contingency account. So my point to the council is, before we do that, before we abandon our goal, it's especially the goal to increase the size of the department,
right.
then let's make sure there isn't somewhere else in the budget where that money can be found.
Right.
2 weeks before Monday's meeting, when the debate was held earlier, well, I was at a finance committee meeting when we debated the issue, it was one of the other councilors' suggestions to the finance director, tell us how many vacancies we have now, funded positions that are vacant, and maybe we can use that money. And Monday night, we were sitting there, and we didn't have that report. We're being presented with no alternatives.
With no-
It's just move the money. Oh, I want to take the 425 from contingency and put it in the general funds. And I just disagree with that. We're just pumping up the general fund by 425,000.
Why do we always have the problem of not knowing where our is that the finance director? I mean, is it, why don't we know? I mean, every time you want to go and look to find out how much money, where we are, since I've been here, it's like, oh yeah, I'll get it to you. Yeah,
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I constantly hear that the reason is we don't have enough staff in the finance office, we don't have enough accountants. There's just not enough people to do the work that has to be done in order to present a fair picture of our finances in real time. And that's an issue. And you almost want to think that that should be the first issue you address.
You want to clean up.
Yeah,
You need to know where you are.
Yeah, you almost want to think that the first dollars have to go to managing the money that you're paying for everything else
I would
with.
think so.
Because, yeah, if you don't have the money to pay for everything else, then
I mean,
that's
in
where you get into trouble.
every organization, you baseline. You need to know where you're starting with. If you don't know your money and how much you got and everything, how can you do anything?
Usually that stuff's tied up in some software program.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
I mean, I've run large organizations
Yeah.
before too,
Yeah,
and
bigger than the city.
not quite that big. But where you have you have all that information. If you
Right.
have a good software system, you can, you can get it down to real time, that you're able to find out exactly how much has been spent and what you have left in which accounts.
Well, one of the problems is, and it comes up especially at audit time, is the school side is on one software and the city side's on another. It's on different software and they don't communicate, and the city can't see into the school's finances. That doesn't excuse us.
Sure.
And actually, probably, I hate to concede this, but probably the school's finances are better managed than the city's finances. But we really want to have one unified
You want to have a
accounting
unified
system.
Yeah.
system.
So you can't mix the monies. I mean, it's
Yeah.
two
Yeah,
separate
right,
budgets.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
they-
right.
and, you know,
You don't
and that's
commingle, we know
state
that.
law.
Yeah, right.
But it should be a single unified
Well,
accounting system.
yes, and you could see what's going on. I mean, I just don't know how you would, how you fly without seeing where you're going, or without the
Can't.
instruments that
You
you
can't.
need to know where you're going. It doesn't make, I mean, that's a serious, see, that's what I'm talking about, incompetent administration. I mean, no CEO would put up with anything like that. Anybody that runs a business wouldn't put it up with anything else, even though business is different than
You need
city
your
government. You
dashboard indicators,
exactly right. I mean, and this is, this is why I'm voting for Mike Passero. You like my sign, Mike? I didn't want to embarrass you. Folks, it wasn't his fault. I did this. Leadership. Vote Democratic. I wanted you to make sure you knew who I was supporting, and all our people in street talk and everything else like that, we need somebody who knows how to run this stuff,
Well, I can't say that I'm the person that knows how to run everything, but I can say that I am working with people who do know how to run a city.
I was just going to say, I used to, they used to, when I was younger and when I was thinking about going to law school, believe it or not, I used to say, lawyers know everything. And a great lawyer told me, no, they
No,
don't.
no, no.
Okay? William Holmans Jr. was a great statesman in Boston. He said, no, they don't, Russell. They know how to find out everything. And that's the difference. He said, they don't know everything, but they know how to research and find out where it's at. And that's why, besides being a fireman, I mean, I get a little nervous voting for you because you're a fireman, because you crazy people run into fires while people are running away. But we know that you're modified a bit because you went to school and you're an attorney, and I think that modifies the person that would run in. Nice being on my show. I give Michael. You don't know a lot about Michael, do you? That actually.
I don't. I've been
I was
waiting
just-
here. I've been hearing from Russ all for the last few months.
Exactly, right. This is the first time, Dominic,
Yeah.
well, you know what? Ask him. He doesn't get grilled from people who really don't know why he's chosen to run.
Well, I mean, the main question, I mean, obviously I can understand why. I mean,
Well,
obviously.
you may not, so don't anticipate it. I'll tell you, when I got elected to the council, we had a city manager form of government. It was pre-charter revision. We appointed, the council I was on, I think it started in 2009.
I think.
And the mayor was Rob Pero. We appointed the Charter Revision Commission that set this whole thing in motion. So to the extent that it hasn't been as successful as a lot of people thought it should be, I have to take some of the blame for that. But the community overwhelmingly supported the change to an elected mayor form of government. And I believe that's what we conceived of it to be, an elected mayor form of government. Now, we may have been 7 very naive, Pollyanna-ish people sitting on that council, but I've talked to some of my colleagues on that council at the time, and Marty was there, by the way, and Adam Spicacci and Rob Pero, and Mike Passero was on that
Mike-
council.
Michael was-
Certainly a lot of ambitious people, there's no doubt about that. People will tell you today, oh yeah, well, of course, there was 4 or 5 people there that wanted to be mayor, But, is that human nature? Everybody thinks they can do the job better. But I think what we all shared is this conception that the government was not going to change all that much. We were just going to get a little more control over the city manager by electing one leader. I pictured it as like, even the garden club has to elect somebody to be leader every year, and it's usually somebody that doesn't really want to take their turn. It's
I
not.
think you were looking for accountability.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But I think we believed we'd still have that city manager there. So we're going to elect one of our neighbors to be the overall elected leader. We still have the council. And right in the charter, there's the provision for the chief administrative officer, and it lays out very, very specifically the qualifications for that position. It's a city manager, essentially.
Yeah.
And you can make any excuse in the world you want, but that's how the government was conceived, to be run by a professional. The accountability was on the elected mayor, and the council was the counterbalance. I think what we ended up with was and I'm not saying that, it is the doctrine of unintended consequences, I suppose. We ended up with something that I don't think all of us fully foresaw.
I think you removed a lot of the power from the council, because doesn't it take like six out of 7 votes to be able to overrule the mayor, so to speak?
It does. It takes, I think that's a pretty high hurdle to,
Yeah.
To override a veto. However, that, curiously enough, has been one provision that has not been an issue.
Not so far.
I think we've
Oh, we got a
overridden the
call.
veto, so.
Good evening, you're on Street Talk with Father Russ, Dominic, and Michael Passero.
Hey there, Father Russ there. Let me put on my surprise face there as Mike recognizes my voice. Listen here. I want to see some public executions, because there's never, ever any responsibility taken for mismanagement. You know what I'm saying? The Green Mile. This city manager, that's why I can't go to city council meetings anymore. Because you ask the simple question, the law director can't give you an answer, yet we're paying him money. You understand what I'm saying? I don't care how many, and especially with this computerized system that we have now, I can Google search an answer and get it before the law director gets back to the council. You know, you can have a smartphone. I'm not electronically savvy. You know what I'm saying? Why do we have a law director who can't give us answers? Why do we have a financial director that at any point in time can't give us an answer as to the budget? And I know Mike says, well, and I'm picking on him now, I'm going to throw a stone. He says, well, we got 2 different kinds of software. I don't want to hear it, all right? At 35 years over at the sub-base, before we computerized time cards and budgets, we did it with ledgers. And at any time, if my director called me up and said, how much money do we have for vehicle maintenance, I open up my ledger, because you're supposed to keep your ledgers up to date at least daily. So don't talk to me about computer programs that don't talk to each other. At the end of the day, you should be able to settle the accounts. The city council should never have to wait for an answer. And people that can't give answers still have jobs and are still being paid. So I want to see public executions. You got to have them, because that's the only way the message goes out. And as far as contracts go and public executions, listen, I used to be union president over at the sub-base. Management and the union work hand in hand. Supervisors are limited by law. You can't threaten employees. Mike knows this. You can't, a supervisor can't say, hey, do this or you're going to get fired. But you know what half my day was over in the union hall? I'd get phone calls from supervisors who would say, listen here, we like Mike, but he's not coming to work on time, but I can't threaten him. I'd say, thank you very much. I'd catch Mike at lunchtime, said, listen here, you're on your way out if you don't straighten up. See, the union is pivotal in keeping the employees up to snuff.
You got
And that way we can avoid all these lawsuits, just like this guy who's going to sue. And we're paying a law director who can't even go to court because we settle everything. There's Mike's $400,000 for the police force. We're cutting checks because the law director doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to go to court. And that's where the frustration comes from with the property owners in the city of New London. And the last thing, Fernandez is running for re-election because now he's got a $148 million blank check because there were no details in that bonding initiative. And you know how we like to rob Peter to pay Paul in the city of New London. And I'm going to hang up here in a second. Mike, I know I oppose you on the community center, but because we have this $148 million bonding project that lacks details, why don't we transform what's already a campus and add another building to put in your community center up on that hill? It could be a campus. You got the magnet, you got the science technology magnet school, you're going to have the revamped high school magnet school, all right? Throw another tunnel or bridge up there to the community center, and we got to put a tight hold on the Board of Education and tell them that the city owns those facilities, not the school district, okay? Because right now, they got us over a hurdle because they want to charge the city, this is the school board, wants to charge the city to use the facilities that we own. Okay, I'll hang up and let you answer. All right, good luck.
All right, well, thanks. I won't identify you, but I do appreciate all of that. I'm not sure where to begin. First, I'll begin. It's $168 million, not to get you into a complete panic, but it's $168 million, and that money has to be policed and well managed.
Oh, yes.
For certain.
Absolutely.
The community center, yes, it was a goal of mine when I first ran in 2009.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
but it's certainly not to build a city building. I would not support the city of New London building anything, any kind of a brick and mortar recreational building, and have to be responsible for taking care of it. And every year in the budget process, we're going to be cheating that building along with every other building we cheat in this city. So no, that is not my goal at all. My goal is to come up with 5 acres of land that would be the city's only responsibility to come up with the land and
Partnership.
donate the land donate it in the form of a 20 or 25-year lease to a private partner to build the facility, to run the facility, and to partner with New London so that New London has indoor recreational facilities, especially a pool. I mean, we've been down the road. We know that we can't, government can't maintain a pool. At least we can on our tax base, but we still need one. Our community needs one. We need an indoor basketball court, other than, as the caller pointed out, if it's a school facility, the Board of Ed and the school administration controls it. It is a city building. We're responsible for it. We're responsible for the lack of maintenance. I was going to say we're responsible for the maintenance, but we're responsible in our case for the lack of maintenance to these buildings. And but yet we're last in the queue for getting court time. You know, the city's preteen basketball league has to wait if the school administration has a higher priority for that very rare basketball court. I think we have 2 full-size basketball courts,
yeah, exactly.
and that's it inside. And if you go around our city, our outdoor courts are full and being used even in bad weather and even in the coldest months. So I think our children and all of our community and our seniors need indoor recreation space. So that's the goal there, not for the city to build or commit to supporting a brick and mortar facility. I don't think that works. The location of it, I'm not sure we could find the 5 acres we need up at the high school campus, but I know that's actively being discussed. The Parks and Rec Department and I should put in a pitch here, because They are advertising for citizens to serve on the committees that they have formed 5 committees. They've broken down, the Community Center Collaborative has brought the project to a certain point with the studies that we've done, with negotiating with potential partners, and we've really gotten to the point where, okay, the city has to take over. The Parks and Rec Commission is stepping up. They're forming community citizen committees to deal with the different aspects of putting this together. And the main focus is to find the site and then select a partner, and let's get this thing built. The thought that the city of New London can't have an indoor recreational facility, that's not acceptable to me. I think
I totally agree with you on that.
It's a city of 27,000 people.
27,000
Come on, let's do it. And I've said it often, I live a blessed life. I'm an alumni of Conn College.
Yeah.
I drive up to their unbelievably beautiful recreational facilities,
Yeah.
and I have access to that. Well, I think every member of this community should have similar access to facilities.
I
like that.
totally agree with you. You know that. We supported what you wanted.
I think the
right
caller
along.
brought up other points. He did mention something very near and dear to my heart, and so, nobody that knows me knows that that's you don't hear a lot about it. We're still struggling with it, but I hope to see that come to fruition at some point, So.
It seems to me like you have a very clear picture of the nuts and bolts of what's going on within the city. But to get back to the original question, which is then why, obviously I know why you're running for mayor, but I want to hear it in your words.
What scares me is if we had, I think, and I sense from people I talk to, that if we had that vote today to change the form of government from a professionally managed, hired city manager to an elected mayor, it wouldn't have a chance of passing. I don't want to see this experiment go down the toilet. I think that we can do it. We can make it work.
I happen to believe, well, number one, I totally believe in the strong mayor system with the executive in position that however you work that. And I think that was how it was meant. That there was the mayor's position was supposed to be there with a good professional executive to assist in the operational management of the city, with somebody with the background in that. That was the way I thought of it. But what I saw was the man put in people who were
Incompetent.
okay.
I said it, that's all right.
Evening on Street Talk with Father Russ, Dominic and Mike Passero, who's
Blushing.
Yeah.
Yes, good evening, Father Russ and Mike Passero, a good man there. I just want a couple comments. I find myself in a position to defend the finance director. I think what would be a good idea is that the city council would hold their meetings on regularly scheduled nights during the month, and maybe they could have an agenda printed or something. That way there, the finance director would be able to have the time to get that information there.
So what's he
it's
talking
really
about?
hard to
It's
tell the
posted.
city
It's being
council,
facetious.
not knowing what days of the month that a city council meeting is and not having an agenda. So it's very hard for him to prepare for that. So I have to defend him. I think that's unfair to him to be criticized for that.
Oh, okay.
Because, he should, it does take some time to get that information, especially with the...
You gotta wrap up pretty quick, Father's almost out of time.
Second thing, community center. I'll wrap this up right now. Community center. I would recommend Harbor School. Right now, the third floor is not being used. The school got to use the first and second floors. The thing that bothers me in all seriousness, and the first two was kind of kidding around, but seriously though, how come we're not doing a better job of prioritizing? We know about the problems with the boilers in the school. We know about the problems that we had to repair roofs and stuff. Why are we doing what we did to Harbor School? Harbor School was not supposed to be the project that it turned out to be. That was kind of a secret, and I think that maybe there was more of a priority in the other school building. I'm going to hang up and let Mike answer that, and you guys, good show tonight.
Good night.
That's a good question, and actually the amount of money that the Board of Ed spent on Harbor School, I'm not going to quote a figure, but the last figure I thought I heard was actually shocking. And that was not a city project. That project was done completely through the Board of Ed. There are a lot of questions, a lot of us have questions, including the finance director. That project was not approved by the city.
By the city,
And,
yeah.
and actually, I've been, I understand that they have, don't ask me how, we built 3 brand-new elementary schools, and we get at the end of the project, and then we find out that we didn't build enough classroom space. And they're all of a sudden, in 2014, at the end of the project, they have not enough classroom space, and they're using that as the excuse to say, because if you remember, getting rid of the old schools, which were too expensive to maintain,
Right,
was
right.
part of the incentive to get the
Exactly.
taxpayers to
Yeah.
support building new facilities, and yet we're still hanging on to this. And a shocking amount of money was spent to get that school open for this September. Very good people, are taking care of our children, educating our children, trying to do the best they can do. That's the type of government decision that leads to bad results, because there was no community buy-in, there was no consensus. It was a unilateral thing, and I don't think we know the whole story behind that. And certainly the community's decision was to get rid of that school, to repurpose that property, if not that building, get it back on the tax rolls, and now we have yet another building to maintain, which is old.
Another conundrum. And we got 2 minutes, okay, now, okay. Normally, I would have Michael wrap up and say why you're running for mayor, but I'm going to have you back on. Over a long period of time, I hope that we get the regular reports, because you're still Councilman Passero, and, but
Well, there's still a lot to talk about. We didn't get to the, capital improvement plan, which the last caller alluded to. Why aren't we prioritizing? And I do still hope, we have a year left. The months and the weeks and the months are counting down to, we're going to be into a budget cycle again.
Exactly.
And once again, we have not done anything towards adopting a capital improvement plan, which is what we need to do. We need a capital budget in this city. We need to understand, especially now with the overlay of potentially $168 million worth of borrowing that's spread out. We need to get an understanding on how are we going to
how are we going to do it, how are we going to
Yeah.
operate, And the fact of the matter is, Father always says we need good leadership. That's why I'm voting for Michael Passero. Leadership. Vote Democratic. Okay? And I want to say to my viewers, I just about got them wrapped. We'll see you next week. Dominic and I will be back on. Obviously, I'm going to have Michael back on as much as I possibly can.
Next week, Dominic,
Oh,
a tape.
Oh, we got a tape next week. I'm not going to be here next week. Very
You're
good.
not on live.
I'm not on live.
We're still on to talk about what we're working
It's the day
with.
after Thanksgiving. Nobody's going to be watching.
But we do have a tape.
Yes,
There's going to be a
yes.
tape we did someplace else on. Okay? So I'll see you in 2 weeks. All right? God bless. And say a lot of prayers for us, will you please?